Calling to order the meeting of the Arlington Select Board for Monday, June 8th, 2026 at 7:15 p.m. And I will confirm that all members are here, and you can introduce yourself, starting on my right.
Joseph Solomon.
Eric Helmuth.
Diane Mahan.
Steve DeCourcy.
James Feeney, Town Manager.
Michael Cunningham, Town Council.
Ashley Marr, Board Administrator.
I think I'm supposed to first say I'm John Hurd, Select Board Chair.
We were wondering.
All right, we'll jump right into the agenda tonight. Item number 1 is introduction of Christopher Blake, our new Deputy Town Council.
Good evening. I wanted to thank the board for having me this evening. I'm Chris Blake. I'm honored to be here as the new Deputy Town Council / Workers' Comp agent for the town of Arlington. I'm originally from Peabody, Massachusetts. I graduated Peabody High in 2015. I received a bachelor's in political science from Bard College in 2019 and a Juris Doctorate from Duquesne University in Pittsburgh in 2022. Immediately after law school, I went and worked at a civil litigation firm in downtown Pittsburgh for about a year, where I had the opportunity of representing a small town outside of Pittsburgh called Sewickley Hills for a little bit. I fell in love with municipal practice. I also, being from Massachusetts, wanted to move back home and had the opportunity to work for the city of Lowell for the past 3 years, where I handled a litany of municipal issues in the city, as well as running the workers' compensation division. So when I was seeing this opportunity arise, it seemed like a perfect fit. Everyone's been fantastic on my first day. I'm more than excited to be here. I can't wait to work with every single one of you.
Thank you. And I was driving through Arlington Center, and I saw you walk doing your lunchtime walk, so you don't have to do that as part of your job description.
Yeah, it's good to get the steps in.
Thank you for coming in and introducing yourself. I'll turn to the board for any questions, comments. Mr. Corsi.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Attorney Blake, welcome to Arlington. I heard when you were hired, both the town manager and town council Cunningham were very impressed with your credentials and with your interview, so we're looking forward to working for you. And I see that both you and Attorney Cunningham have something in common, having played baseball in college, so a little bit to talk about there.
Yep. Well, I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Mrs. Mahan.
Also welcome, Attorney Blake. I'm thrilled. It's a very important position in the town, and you have a great town council to lean on and learn from. He taught the last one so well. She's moved on and another city took her, so. But it is a very, not that other positions aren't important, and I do appreciate the fact that you do have workers' comp experience, so you know the whole facet of that, and dealing with not only the legalities and the laws, but also dealing with the town employees' different personalities and what comes with that. And I was really impressed that I saw you had some work previously with a treasurer's or assessor's office and debt collection and getting it online. Could you talk about that, like a sentence, 2, 3, 4?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so towards the end of my time with Lowell, I was asked to take over the bankruptcy practice and the debt collection practice. And I was asked, similarly with my workers' compensation practice, kind of look at the books and see how we were handling things. A couple issues arose. We had to have some conversation with treasurers, butt heads a little bit at times, but, coming to a resolution where we figured out the right way to do things and we kind of moved forward in the right direction. And that's kind of how I like to do business in terms of having a dialogue and being able to collaborate with, other department heads, other employees, make sure that we're all on the same page and make sure we're learning from each other at the same time.
Exactly. And I'm definitely looking forward to that. And one of the things I want to make sure that you continue on with, that the town manager and town council has done, is keeping this board abreast of new state laws that come out, perhaps federal, practices. Circuit breaker at 75% for seniors. We had a conversation around that this year, and we have a very good deputy town manager who's director of finance also. But one of the things the board said at the last meeting is, it's at 75, how about 50 or 25, and indicated why we shouldn't, but also that, moving forward, that's where I really look to the town manager and the town council on issues like that, that when the board's making really important decisions like that. Speaking for myself, because you got some attorneys and others up here, but speaking for myself, I try to stay on top of everything, but I know I can't, so welcome, and I
Thank
look
you.
forward to working with you and through Attorney Cunningham. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, welcome. Is this your first day?
This is my first day.
Oh, wow, sorry. Ending it in style.
Yep.
No, we're delighted to have you, and thank you for being interested in Arlington. It's a great community. I love the town, and one of the things I love about it is just how engaged and active everybody is, and that does have a downside. The residents will keep the legal department busy, as we know, and we might do that now and then. But on balance, I really think it's a good thing that people really pitch in this town to make it a great place to live, and it's a partnership with the residents, with elected officials, with the town departments. I agree with Mrs. Mahan, you couldn't have a better boss. He's just a model of how to do that, and I know that you'll learn a lot under him and bring some of your own contributions, so we're very glad to have you.
Thank you.
Welcome, Attorney Blake. I heard a lot of good things about your background. It's a good fit for Arlington, definitely well needed. I think you just missed town meeting, which will be fun next year.
Yep.
And as a fellow upstate New York undergrad, welcome to Arlington.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
You'll be happy to know, a couple of years ago, we retrofitted that building you're in with air conditioning, so. Summer will be a lot more tolerable. All right, welcome, thank you.
Thank you guys very much.
No motion to receive. All right, item number 2, we have a proclamation, Stroker Rogovin Day. I have it in front of me. It reads, whereas Spy Pond is a natural resource treasured by the town of Arlington, the Massachusetts tribe, village of Menominee, and West Cambridge. For the last 100 years, Spy Pond has had problems with water quality, excessive aquatic plants, and algae. The town and its citizen groups have studied these problems and cared for Spy Pond. And whereas in 1996, an explosion of aquatic weeds led to formation of the Spy Pond Committee under the Environmental Task Group of Vision 2020. On March 5th, 1997, responding to an insert in the town census mailing, Lawrence Stroker Rogovin attended his first of many Spy Pond Committee meetings. And whereas on May 12th, 2007, Stroker Rogovin organized the Spy Pond Trails Day to improve the MassDOT path between Route 2 and Spy Pond. Despite a heavy, cold rain, a trail crew from the Appalachian Mountain Club built granite steps and a bench while volunteers removed invasives and collected trash. And whereas on May 9th, 2026, Stroker Rogovin organized the 20th Spy Pond Trails Day and the 10th marking of poison ivy with fluorescent orange paint. Volunteers removed trash, fishing line, and poison ivy. MassDOT removed trash along Route 2, and AMC volunteers prune vistas and brush in eroding paths with the help of invasives. I don't know what that word is. ACMi, Pack 313, and the Cub Scouts dug up Oriental bittersweet and other invasives, filling 6 large trash bags. And now, therefore, be it resolved that we, the members of the Select Board, do hereby proclaim June 8th, 2026 as Stroker Rogovin Day in the town of Arlington. We honor and thank Stroker for his steadfast contributions to Spy Pond on behalf of the town residents. Now we'll turn to the board. Mrs. Mahan?
I'd like to move approval and say this is certainly well-deserved, and, many, many years ago, I really didn't know what invasive meant in all the different trails that we had here in Arlington, and the different state agencies, MassDOT, DCR, then MDC, so on and so forth. So a lot of these things, when you read the words, knowing what's behind them to actually get this done really speaks volumes. God bless you, and I'm very appreciative Rogovin, and I apologize if I didn't say his name right, for not only organizing and doing this work, but the next best thing that you really need to have is getting an awful lot of volunteers to do it with them. So that's much appreciated, so I would definitely move approval.
We have a motion to approve by Mrs. Mahan,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Solomon. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Unanimous vote. Getting thrown off by a couple of the European-style dates in this one.
I don't know what ARMI is. I'm sure it's like
Arlington Mass Invasives, yeah.
Mass invasives.
All right, item number 3. For approval, we have a request for a one-day beer and wine license for June 19th, June 23rd, June 24th, and June 26th at the Arlington Reservoir Beach for a soccer watch party. We have Natasha Wadden, our Director of Recreation. My brain waiting.
Good evening. Thank you so much, Select Board members, Attorney Cunningham, Mr. Feeney, and Ms. Maha for hearing my application tonight. I am so excited about this application. I'd like to share with you, I'm sure you are all aware, Miles Robinson, who is one of Arlington's own residents, has recently been named to the USA World Cup men's team. And so we were notified through Ms. Mahan about this event, and she had reached out to myself in the planning department, wondering if we might be able to host an event, and we immediately jumped on this. This is such an amazing opportunity for us to highlight such an amazing community member here in Arlington, and so our focus right now has been on an event for June 19th, which is the USA versus Australia, and then there is a second game, which is Scotland versus Morocco. So that's June 19th, and then we have, as part of the FIFA requirements to host other events, we had requested to host up to 4 viewings. So we have chosen some other dates which are before you, which is the Tuesday, the 23rd, Wednesday, June 24th, and Friday, June 26th. At the moment, all of these events we are hoping to host at the Reservoir Beach. There have been a lot of logistics that we've been working through, but I am so excited to let you all know that it's all coming together. We have a big LED screen that we are definitely going to be bringing in for the June 19th, and we're working on some other arrangements, excuse me, for viewing on those other days. In the past, you have seen events come through, one-day alcohol permits for events at the Reservoir, which have been our summer concert series. I believe that might be on the consent agenda tonight. We have worked in the past with Arlington Brewing Company, who has been excellent in being able to maintain control and monitoring the consumption of alcohol on site. So we felt wonderful that they were also willing to work with us on this event. So we are hoping to have this first event on June 19th, and we are working with the Arlington Boys and Girls Club, the soccer club, Select Board Planning Department. Huge thank you to Ms. Mahan as well as Katie Lusai, who worked and moved mountains to secure the FIFA license, which my understanding is that there had been a lot of challenges with that in the Commonwealth, but we were lucky and able to obtain that. So we're moving forward with your permission, of course, and we're hoping for an amazing event. We hope to start advertising it out tomorrow. And we will include with that food trucks, concessions. We're hoping for food trucks, but we will absolutely have our concession stand. In the past, we have also been able to serve hamburgers and hot dogs and things like that. It's a really great community event, and whereas we're used to having events at the Reservoir, we can hold up to a capacity of 2,500, and we've done that very successfully. So we felt very confident that we're able to host this event. In addition, any questions you might have about staffing, we're very used to bringing on extra staff at the res when we have these types of events. We will have our staff monitoring the playground so that we ensure there's no alcohol that goes into the playground, there's no alcohol that leaves the premise. We have staff that are right at that gate. We add additional lifeguards because our water will be open, additional beach monitors, and additional staff sort of monitoring different areas throughout the event. So with that, we're super excited and hope that we have your support, and I'm happy to answer any questions. I'm sorry if I spoke too fast, too.
No problem. I'll turn to the board for any questions, comments, emotions. Mrs. Mahan?
I would like to move approval of the June 19, 23rd, 24, 26, 2026 request for one-day beer and wine license applications. And I do want to thank Ms. Whedon, first in speaking to the town manager, and who approved me putting out a email plea for, especially where, you know, Miles has been named to the USA team. And he, along with the Buck family, Noel and Joe Buck, they've been so great giving back to the community. And I know Miles as a basketball star. And when my cheerleaders would say, you know, sink it, Miles, sink it. But, and he has a really nice story about, I think he kind of fell into soccer because his younger sibling wanted to do it and didn't really, you know, wanted to do it alone. So, and he's given back so much to the community. It's my understanding he's done a video, but I do know that Ms. Whedon and the Arlington Soccer Club, Dean Carmen, I'm going to blank on the other people's names. I can see them, Julie, I think, and a few others, along with the Boys and Girls Club, are also going to have, you know, tape a message for Miles and activities to go on for the kids. And I just think it's a great opportunity to highlight Miles and his contribution to the team. Was hoping we could have done a little bit more on the planning side with the economic and restaurants, but that's a whole nother thing. But to say that this was thrown literally probably about 10 days ago, maybe, and to have it come together the way it has far exceeded what I had anticipated. And when the manager informed me that, you know, the FIFA license was followed up on, and I believe you said did we have to pay a fee?
We did not.
The fee was even waived, which I think getting it as quickly as we did and getting the fee waived is in large part because Miles is on the team. So look forward to seeing everyone, and we'll leave it to Ms. Whedon and others in terms of what volunteers you may or may not need. But I know the soccer club and the boys club have really stepped up, and that should be the way to go. So move approval.
Mr. DeCoursey?
Yeah, I'll second the motion. Thank you, Ms. Whedon. Thank you, Mrs. Mahan, for all the work in putting this together. I was going to say this at new business about Miles, but it's a remarkable accomplishment to be named to the team. He graduated from Arlington High in 2015, and while he couldn't play on the Arlington High soccer team because he was playing at such an elite level, we got to see him on the basketball court, and to this day, probably one of the best basketball players ever to come through Arlington. He only played in season, and he was absolutely remarkable. And I was fortunate enough to see just about all of his games his senior year because the girls and the boys teams played doubleheaders. My daughter was on the girls team, and we stayed for the boys games. And he just had a remarkable career and a remarkable pro career. Won an MLS championship with Atlanta, and now I think this is at least his second time being named to the men's team. Mm-hmm. So we wish them all the best and thank Miles for what he's done back in the community too. He's at the Boys and Girls Club just recently with an event there through a foundation he created with Pat Connaughton. So it's very exciting events for Arlington. I'm 2,500. There might not be enough room for that, but it's going to be well attended. I know people are very excited about it.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for pulling this together.
Of course.
I know there were a lot of headlines about getting licenses and last minute, a lot of uncertainty, so to get through that is very impressive. I was looking at the schedule real quick. It looks like there's games at the same time. Are we licensed for one or the other? Can you share sort of what teams people are going to be able to see?
Sure. So for the 19th, Friday the 19th, we're going to show USA versus Australia, and then it's a doubleheader, so we'll go with Scotland versus Morocco. And then at the moment, we're planning for Tuesday, the 23rd, game starts at 4 p.m. We're going to be showing England versus Ghana. And then Wednesday, the 24th, we're going with the 6 p.m., either Scotland versus Brazil or Morocco versus Haiti. And then Friday, the 26th, is a 3 p.m. We're going with Norway versus France, and it will be free admission an hour before the event. So this is a free event open to the public.
Cool. Thank you again.
Yes, absolutely. This is my pleasure.
Thank you. Sounds great. And I think this is a very good use of town funds for sure, but I'm just curious, are there revenues that offset any of the additional expenses for the staffing and the police detail and all the other stuff, which is all wonderful that you're doing that? Or is this coming out of the regular budget, just how's the expenses covered?
Sure. So these expenses will come out of the Recreation Enterprise Fund. So we will be using, funds from the concessions that we raise. We'll be using gate admissions, those types of things. Any of the expenses that we would be bringing in through the reservoir will be helping to offset these costs here. We won't be charging at the beginning of the event, but the way that the reservoir beach operates, there are, fees and things like that. We're going to do some special things, so I'm hoping that, we'll have the red, white, and blue slush, and we'll sell a few more slushes, a few more ice creams, those types of things. So it's all coming out of the Recreational Enterprise Fund, and it's a great recreation program. So we certainly feel like it's a good use of the funds.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. Thank you for explaining that.
Absolutely.
I just want to thank everyone that put work into this. It should be an awesome event. We have a motion to approve by Mrs. Mahan, seconded by Mr. DeCoursey. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Unanimous vote. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
That brings us to our consent agenda. The items 4 to 10 as posted on our agenda. I'm not going to go through them individually, but they are available for anyone to view on the agenda that's been posted online. I will turn to the board for any motions. Ms. Mahan?
Move approval?
Motion approved by Mrs. Mahan, seconded by Mr. Solomon. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Unanimous vote. That brings us to a public hearing. Mr. DeCoursey?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to be recusing myself from item 11. This concerns National Grid, and because of legal work I do for National Grid, I'll be stepping out.
The record can reflect that Mr. DeCoursey has left the chamber. So we have item number 11, National Grid petition for Orvis Road. We have Mary Malroney from National Grid. Good evening, Ms. Malroney. Can you hear us? Ms. Mulroney, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. Yep. You just tell us about the petition.
Okay. National Grid respectfully requests your consent for a GOL for the installation of approximately 100 feet of 4-inch plastic in Orvis Road from Randolph Street to house number 58 to 60 Orvis Road. It's a dead-end gas main at 58 to 60 Orvis Road.
All right, thank you. And this is a public hearing right now. If anyone either in the chamber or on Zoom would like to speak as to this petition, you can raise your hand in the chamber or use the raise hand function in Zoom.
Seeing no hands raised.
Seeing no hands, we will move on to the board for any questions, comments, or motions. Mrs. Mahan?
I'd like to move approval.
So I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion approved by Mrs. Mahan, seconded by Mr. Helmuth. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? It is a unanimous vote with one abstention. Thank you, Ms. Mulroney.
Thank you and have a good evening. And you should be proud. That sounds impressive, those soccer watch parties.
Thank you, we are. All right, and we'll invite Mr. DeCoursey to return. Sorry, your break wasn't too long.
Not long enough.
All right, that brings us to item number 12, appointments. We have 2 appointments to the Community Preservation Act Commission. So that was a few hotly contested vacancies that we went through. So we now have our applicants to appoint. We have Christine Carney and Carmine Granucci. I'll go in order of my agenda. And so we'll go with Ms. Carney. If you can just introduce yourself and a little bit about your interest in the position.
So I'm Christine Carney. I have been interested in being on the Community Preservation Committee since I was the treasurer of the Community Preservation ballot question. I think this is a great program. I wish Arlington had jumped on it a lot sooner, but we're in it, and I think it's just a wonderful way to budget and get things done effectively, and to keep open space open, preserve historic buildings, and to create more low-income housing or affordable housing. So I'm excited.
Thank you. And I'll just turn to the board. Any questions, comments, or motions relative to Ms. Carney's appointment? Mr. Helmuth.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to move approval of appointing Mrs. Carney, and I believe that the town manager is the sixth vote on this, if I'm not correct. This was, the process we went through with Mr. Feeney and Ms. Bongiorno was wonderful and awful, because everybody we interviewed and talked to was fantastic. And I think it really speaks to the success of the CPA program and the way that it's been managed, at least recently, that everybody wants to participate and continue making it really great. And it was a really, really tough decision to narrow it down to two people, because we had folks who were deeply committed to the community, and I know that Ms. Carney has just exemplary service to the town for a long time, 30 years on the Human Rights Commission,
Yes.
among other things,
Yes.
and knows this community backwards and forward, and I know loves it. I'll just go ahead and speak to Mr. Granucci as well, who's newer to town, newer in being involved, but is already contributing so much in town meeting and other ways, and really articulated a really solid interest and foundation for his work in the CPA. So we are all just thrilled with these applicants, and really glad to have them working for us. And you quickly find out just a little bit of what it's like for us in the selection committee, because you're going to have more applications for funding than anywhere close to what you have the money for. And but that's a good process, and I know you'll be really great for it.
You have a motion to approve Ms. Carney's appointment, seconded by Mrs. Mahan. All those in favor? Say aye. All those opposed? Unanimous vote. Mr. Granucci, you can introduce yourself, just tell us a little bit about your interest in the position as well.
Sure. I am Carmine Granucci. I just want to thank you, Chairman Hurd, members of the Select Board, Town Manager Feeney. This is a genuine honor. Arlington has been home for 12 years now, and serving on town meeting has been one of my the most rewarding parts of that. I've been looking for a way to deepen my civic engagement, and the Community Preservation Act Commission felt like the right next step. Community housing, historic preservation, open space, the work they do touches everything that makes Arlington feel like Arlington. In its 10th year now, the program has a real track record to build on. I'm looking forward to working with the committee, with the applicants that Mr. Helmuth has pointed out, that will be a lot of, and with the staff who keep it all running. So I'm grateful for all your trust and ready to get started. So thank you very much for this opportunity. I appreciate all of you.
Thank you. And I'll turn to the board for any questions, comments, or motions for Mr. Granucci.
The motion approval?
We have a motion to approve by Mrs. Solomon, seconded by
Second?
Mr. DeCoursey. All those in favor say aye.
If I-
Wait.
Sorry, if I could just take advantage of, before the six of us vote, similar, I want to piggyback on what Mr. Helmuth said, first regarding the applicants. And for one time, I was very grateful I wasn't in the power position to make that decision, because similar to Mr. Hurd and I's work on CDBG, people's work on the Community Preservation Act, CPA, you get 3- or 4-fold valid, worthy applications, and in this case, applicants. And it really is a difficult decision, but one of the things that I really place a lot of steed and trust in is the fact of the commitment of our current and soon-to-be 2 new members, for not only knowing the community, but knowing the heart of the community and you know, what each project means. And one of the things that, since I have you here and you're a captive audience. And having worked on the override with Mr. Granucci, and making a lot of promises there in terms of being vigilant and good stewards of money and projects and moving forward. A lot of people, and I bite my tongue a couple of times now, that when Mrs. Carney started out on the Community Preservation Act, trying to get it before the voters and getting the ballot approved, there were some people that, rightfully so, were really not in favor of it at all. And to see the 180 by those people and who now recognize the benefit that this brings to the community, and we really have come to rely on CPA funds to augment the important values and projects and accomplishments around affordable housing, around 21 parks and playgrounds. And the other thing that I've seen sort of evolve on the CPA committee, and recently with the new town manager and me joining Mr. Hurd on the CDBG, Community Development Block Grant Committee, when those applications come in 3- and 4-fold, and they're all worthy, and you want to do them all, going back and doing the due diligence of speaking with each applicant, looking at each project, and really saying to them, similar to what we said in the override, we're going to look at everything, we're going to know it inside and out, we're going to know the bones of it, and we're going to say, you're asking for $100, do you really need 100? Oh, you only need 75? Do you really need 75 right now? Oh, you can do it in you were planning on doing it in 2 or 3 phases, because I know moving forward, there's a poor little ant, I don't want to get rid of him. You'll be seeing people, including people like me, that are going to come in and want, our project's very, very important. And I think the only way you can balance that, you can't answer everything to all people, but can continue to go through that process, because the other thing that works on the other end is whether CDBG, whether the manager, when he goes to capital planning, or CPA, we've fallen into that sort of cadence of habit, sorry, been in the depot all day, that's the process we go through, and we're doing it for the benefit of the community and the program. So, and I know you too will carry that on, and you will have the institutional knowledge to be able to do that. So thank you for letting me jump in and say all that.
All right, thank you. So we have a motion to approve by Mrs. Solomon, seconded by Mr. DeCoursey. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Unanimous vote. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That takes us to our most anticipated Common Vics application of the year. I've gotten more inquiries about this than anything else. Item number 13 for approval, Common Victuals License, Tyler Toombs, Jersey Mike Subs, 1398 Massachusetts Avenue. If you just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your application and your planned store.
Yeah, my name is Tyler Toombs, owner of TT Group Holdings. Submitted this application under TT Group Arlington Inc., which will be the entity that owns the specific Jersey Mike's. I own 9 Jersey Mike subs across Massachusetts. I started this about 5 years ago after I left my job in corporate finance. I have 3 under construction now, Arlington being one of them. We're hoping to open June 24th. If we get all of our permits and approvals. If not, it'll leak into July. But happy to answer any questions, operational, whatever you got.
This is a public hearing. If the same members of the public wish to speak on this application, you can raise your hand in the chamber or use the raise hand function on Zoom.
Seeing no hands raised.
Seeing none, we'll turn to the board for any questions, comments, or motions. Mrs. Mahan.
I would like to move approval and say welcome to Mr. Toombs. Thank you for doing this. Thank you for choosing Arlington. The restaurant business, food business is a very intensive one, and a lot of times involves your family. Your work employees become your family. The other thing that I'm excited about is Jersey Mike's and the offerings, but I see that you also have a work fair, sort of, and you've put the word out in terms of people if they're seeking employment. Could you just speak about that a little bit? Because I think that's also important, where, you know, we've been talking about looking for businesses, and even though it's a teeny, teeny little step, but any little economic driver. But, and I know you've done some official publishing on that, so if you could.
Yeah, we'll employ about 15 to 20 people. One of my district managers, Diana, joined the local Arlington Facebook page and told everybody we're hiring. We also put out ads on Indeed. As part of our grand opening, this isn't directly with your question, but kind of is, we're partnering with the Arlington High School Athletics Department, and we'll raise money for them. We distribute 5,000 grassroots cards. They look like business cards, and if you redeem one in store and donate $3 to Arlington Athletics, you get a free sub. So hopefully all 5,000 are redeemed. Be a nice pop of money to Arlington Athletics. Super successful. Usually in most towns, we partner with the high school, and all the kids come out and get a lot of subs and, and gets them as customers.
And thank you for doing that, because that's fantastic. And the word certainly has gotten out, and that's the kind of thing in these economic times that you really have to not only drive it for the dollars and the cost, but also to really cement yourself or introduce yourself into the community. And you've done a fantastic job on that, as well as, you know, it is new opportunities for employment. And again, wish you luck on that. So thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Corsi?
Second. And also, Mr. Toombs, I want to welcome, thank you for choosing Arlington. And as Mrs. Mahan and Mr. Hurd said, I had heard a lot about Jersey Mike's coming. I was wondering when you were going to come before us. So I'm glad that seems like everything's in order, and that you'll be opening soon. And wish you the best, and thank you for your reaching out, for your efforts that you just described with the athletic department.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, thank you for choosing Arlington. I was curious, do you participate in like app ordering in addition to in-store? What's usually the split in your other stores of apps versus in-person?
So in-store versus digital. Digital would include the Jersey Mike's app, would include DoorDash, Uber Eats, stuff like that, third party. It's usually about 50-50.
Okay.
So 50% is in-store, and then about another 20% is our app, and then 30% is third-party delivery.
Okay. And have you run into any issues with driver accessibility to the site with other locations?
No, our biggest issue we run into is just people stealing other people's orders.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, but there's plenty of parking in the back, and part of the Arlington Redevelopment Board's approval was in the app I can put custom instructions for where those drivers come to pick up those orders or where to park, and so they'll all be, you know, when they open the app, oh, you have a delivery for Jersey Mike subs, you got to bring it here and here, park in the back of the store, come in, there's going to be temporary parking spaces for like 15-minute parking, and then they'll just come right to the store, we'll hand it to them, and they're on their way.
Perfect. All right, thank you. Welcome.
Mr. Helmuth?
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that last answer. I just want to reinforce that. I think it'll be important to be proactive about that. And to my knowledge, Arlington hasn't had a problem that we see in Boston and some of the communities with some of the delivery drivers using mopeds, for instance, in parking on sidewalks and running into pedestrians and stuff. So certainly, if that were to start becoming a mode for those delivery drivers in Arlington, that's something that we really want to be on top of from the beginning. We'll appreciate your partnership with all of them, and keeping an eye out, having your managers keep an eye out in the store to make sure that the sidewalks are staying clear and don't have people riding on them, especially with motorized vehicles or e-bikes.
Yep.
If that were to be the case. So, but thank you. We're looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm excited.
I feel like you're dating yourself with the moped. Like the old ones with the-
It sounds like I am, but my other job, believe it or not, is still a term of art in Chapter 90, for better, for worse, mostly for worse. So it's a catch-all phrase for these things. No one knows how to regulate.
And thank you for choosing Arlington. My only concern was the parking out front as far with the deliveries, but it seems like you're taking care of that, and the redevelopment board has already been proactive about that, which I'm sure they are for other businesses in the new age of food delivery services. So with that, we have a motion to approve by Mrs. Mahan, seconded by Mr. Corsi. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? You have a unanimous vote. Okay, thank you.
guys.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Pest control in here.
I was gonna say, I thought it was just me.
Does that food in
My
your
little
desks?
guy, a girl on their way.
All right, that takes us to open forum, except in unusual circumstances. Any matters presented for consideration of the board shall neither be acted upon nor a decision made on the night of the presentation in accordance with the policy under which the open forum was established. Should be noted that there is a 3-minute time limit to present a concern or request. Before I take open forum requests, I just want to note that item number 14 is a public hearing, and we will take public comment on that item. If anyone in the chambers would like to speak, okay. We'll go in the front here, then Mr. Jameson. If you could just say your name and address for the record.
Jim Muncy, 215 Mass Ave. I've only been in Arlington since I was born. Good evening to all of you. For those of you who don't know me, I'm still a member of the board for the Council on Aging, and for 14 years now, I've been driving the van with the seniors around town. So I do get a lot of feedback about things that they like and don't like. And one of my previous terms, the town completed a lot of renovation to the senior center, which we thank you very much for. It was done with great results, and if you knew anything about that building before that renovation, you'd be sitting here going, thank you, God. At the time, the board recommended that the site be renamed from the senior center to the community center, which was accepted. And we did that because we also had a full-size kitchen installed in the building so that we can rent the hall out and make money. And the younger people don't want to go to a senior center. They have a baby shower or something, so we come up with the community center name. It was opened in May of 2022, after all the renovation work was done. The signage directing people to that facility from Mass Ave is still 4 years later wrong. And I'd like to just pass these out to you. If that's all right?
Give them to Ms. Moore.
There's one for Mr. Feeney and the rest of the board. This information has been pointed out to the town for over a year, and we're still not getting any feedback on whether it's going to get fixed or not. All we're asking for is either fix the sign or take down where it says senior center, because the people that I meet on the vans, when they come here for the first time, they're looking for the sign and it says senior center, and then they walk right by the community center. There's a nice new sign out there, and they don't know where to find the senior center. There's no reason for all that confusion for those seniors. That's it.
Thank you. Seems like an easy fix.
Does to me, we'll see.
All right, Mr. Jameson?
Good evening. Gordon Jameson, town meeting member, precinct 12. So town meetings, we've had, I think you, the select board, the town manager, school committee, and the superintendent have brought us to a very successful year with an override passage. The town meeting is completed, and we're looking to the future. And I just wanted to I was just looking over my notes from town meeting on the back of my books, and there were a few things, from my perspective, I'm sure other people have different perspectives of what important action items are, and I just wanted to remind the board and the manager and their staff and anybody else you can enlist that we do have legislation on Beacon Hill that has been filed to potentially recharacterize our MBTA category from a high cost to a lower cost, and that might be worth $2.5 million a year. So if we could get that done, that to me is job one on the finance side. You're tired of hearing me talk about insurance and pension offsets, but I'll just mention that again. On the roadways, let's focus on, you're the streets people, so I'd like you to focus on the grid system, which carries probably 80% of the traffic in town. And another financial thing, can we stretch out some of the capital plan items so that we can save some money on that, that budget that's very stressed? And that's all. Just keep up the good work, everyone, the manager and his team, and hopefully we can get this legislation passed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Nope. Can't have questions in open forum. Anyone else in the chamber?
The tree request, is that?
So that will be next. There's one hit.
There's one hand raised. I'm going to promote them now.
Hi, I think you wanted me to be able to speak. My name is Carl Wagner, is that correct?
Yes, are you speaking on open forum?
Yes, please. I'm
Yep.
Carl Wagner. I'm a resident of Edge Hill Road in Arlington, and I'm a town meeting member in Precinct 15. Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the Select Board, for allowing me to speak in open forum. I had two items I wanted to ask you about, and I hope you'll consider. The first one is that this is the first time that I have appeared on the hybrid use of the Select Board meeting, and I think it's excellent. And I wanted to commend what the ARB has done to improve their meetings at the community center. They used to be very hard to hear, and a lot of work has been done to improve the audio system. However, they still don't have what you have, the hybrid meeting, and it's very important for Arlington zoning changes, and so that the most amount of people can participate in that. That maybe our town manager or you working with our town manager continue to work with the ARB so that they implement hybrid meetings also. We know it can be done because this works really well. So thank you for considering that. The second item I wanted to ask you about is I wanted to draw your attention to the meeting materials that were received, the letters received. I sent in an email dated June 2nd, and I hope you'll have a chance to read it, with my concern that although it's great that Arlington has been adjusting speed limits on our roads, in some cases, the adjustment isn't appropriate. And I would ask if you could please take a look at some of the dramatic changes in speed that have been put through, particularly because I drive on this section. I noticed the section of Route 3 from the Winchester Country Club to Old Mystic Street, and from the Medford Rotary to the Route 16 Rotary. These are areas that are not thickly settled, don't have a lot of interactions with pedestrians, other road users, and basically would be fine at 35, what they originally were set at, or even maybe just down to 30. But a 10-mile-an-hour drop is excessive and unnecessary. Also, there are wasting time. The police are having to enforce in some of these areas, and I think they have better things to do than try and hopefully warn people that they have to go 25 now instead of 35. And when I asked in town meeting recently about what we could do on this, I was told to approach you, the members of the Select Board, to ask for your consideration in adjusting some of these reductions back to where they were. So I thank you very much for looking at my letter and considering that. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Are there any more hands raised on Zoom?
Seeing no hands raised.
And that will close open forum. And that brings us to item number 14. We have a hearing for public shade tree removal for Stratton Safe Routes to School project. William Copperthorne, our town engineer.
We'll be appearing via Zoom in just a second.
Oops. Mr. White just typed.
Hello.
Happy birthday.
Happy night. Trying to find some place in the house with a clearish wall. That was the best I could do.
All right, thank you. You just introduce yourself and tell us about the application.
Sure. My name is Bill Copperthorne, the town engineer for the town of Arlington. This tree hearing request is a follow-up to a request that was made in September of 2024 related to the Stratton School Safe Routes to School project. I think most of the board was still the same at that point, maybe except for Mr. Solomon. A brief run through, essentially the work will be installing sidewalks and other pedestrian safety measures all the way from Stratton School to Summer Street along Mountain Ave, Dixon Ave, and Hemlock Street. During the previous presentation, which was given by our former senior transportation planner, John Alessi, the board approved the removal of, I believe it was 10 trees, public shade trees, the transplantation of 2 additional trees, and the planting of 16 new trees along the route. An issue we run into all the time on our sidewalk projects is trying to meet both the ADA accessibility standards for the sidewalk themselves, while also meeting the shade tree protection regulations for Massachusetts, which is what brings us here today. As the contractor and Mass DOT, who was actually overseeing and paying for the project on behalf of the town, met on site in preparation for the work. They identified a number of additional concerns that hadn't previously been called out on the plan set that was prepared by the consultant that was hired for this project. They requested, or Mass DOT and the contractor, Jay Trupiano, requested that myself and the tree warden, Tim McQueeve, review 4 different locations for potential conflicts. The tree warden identified that all 4 trees were considered healthy, and we were able to determine that 3 of them didn't pose issues that were worthy of removal. And instead, the contractor will be continuing to work around those trees, providing adequate protection around the root zone. However, we did identify 1 tree that we agreed there were some concerns with, located at 54 Hemlock Street. I would consider the biggest concern of the tree is that it slopes out over the roadway at an angle. And if it's helpful, I can share a couple of pictures showing how that those concerns. Give me 1 second here. Can you see my screen?
Not yet, Bill.
We're just on happy birthday.
Let me try that again. Said it was trying to request it. All right, how about now?
There it is.
Okay. So this is the tree in question. This is looking in the, I believe it's the southwest direction towards Summer Street. It does tilt over the roadway level. You can see the parked car downstream of the tree. When tree warden LaQueve and I were on site, we actually were present as a school bus was coming down the hill. And at the time, the road was unobstructed. There was no parking on either side. And the bus had to stop to prevent from actually hitting the tree while there was a car coming in the other direction. So there's concern related to that, the obstacle of the tree over the road. Where that silver car is present is also going to be the location of a new proposed crosswalk that will be installed as part of this project. The tree itself, while this is more what I'd consider the passenger view, does reduce sight distance to some degree. I will take a flip side of this. This is looking upstream from roughly the points of the crosswalk. I'm probably standing about 5 feet further, closer to the tree than you would in the sidewalk. But nonetheless, when you're looking upstream, up the hill, There is a reduction in sight distance for anyone who might be crossing. Given the whole premise of this project is safe routes to school and trying to improve pedestrian safety, that obviously stuck out as an additional concern. And a lesser concern is which something that we run into all the time on these street projects or these sidewalk projects is just, technically speaking, we won't have adequate distance behind the tree to fully meet ADA accessibility. This would be considered a pinch point, so we would be able to get close to the requirements without having perfectly sloped ADA style sidewalks. There would still be an asphalt patch behind this that will provide smooth passage, but not technically meet the regulations. I'd like to share one more figure with you all. So this is actually straight from the presentation that was given in September of 2024 and showing the entire project route right from the top.
Bill, we're still seeing the same image. My apologies for interrupting.
No problem. Thank you for letting me know. 6 years in, I'll figure this out eventually. Okay.
Got it.
All right, great. This is the proposed conditions from the previous select board meeting. It might be a little tiny on the screen right now, but essentially all the green trees are being retained. The little red dots are spots where the existing trees were to be removed or transplanted, and the green, the blue, I should say, trees were going to be new plantings as part of the project. This is the section from Stratton to Knowles Farm. Here's further down in the area that we're talking about for this current tree amendment to the previous hearing. The tree in question is this one right here. As you can see, this is the proposed raised crossing at Lansdowne Road, where we were kind of looking up the hill towards this tree. And let me try this one additional change here. A very, very minor modification that hopefully will show when I flip this over. Okay, and this is just a modified version of that previous print, just clearly calling out the tree at 54 Hemlock as the one that the town is requesting on behalf of DOT and the contractor. So that's my summary. Happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you. And I will do public comment first. So if you, this gentleman in the front can come up to the microphone, introduce yourself with your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes.
Yeah. Good evening. My name is Nathan Carter, and I live at the 5456 Condo Association. It's a two-family house. We're on the top. We have our neighbors on the bottom, who I think are on Zoom also. So first of all, thank you for listening tonight, and I'm glad that I live in a town that has protected trees, and that, I hope they are protected. I hope that tonight that will not be just a sort of quick approval, but that you'll think about this. I do not know much about trees, and I certainly do not want to tell Mr. Copperthorne how to do his job. I'm sure they've done a great job thinking through all this. I do want to highlight that they did say the tree is healthy, and I would say it's more than that. I would say it's beautiful. I've been looking out my window at that tree for 18 years, and it is big, and it's wonderful. I think I want to address the three concerns that he brought up, each separately. I hope I can do that in 3 minutes. We'll see. The first one that he said is the most important is that it's leaning out, and he showed you the photo of that. We have been there for 18 years. There are often cars parked next to that tree. In fact, we have neighbors who use trucks and vans as part of their job and regularly park them there, which makes people have to go by even further out than the tree. And we have never seen an accident of any kind at that location. It doesn't seem to me that a bus having to stop for a moment is the reason to cut down a tree that I've been told is about 90 years old. I think it's great that you're going to plant new trees to replace the old ones, but little trees do not have anywhere near the carbon capture of 90-year-old trees, so I think it's important to preserve those things when you can. The other two concerns, limited visibility at the crosswalk. Obviously, it is super important to keep kids safe. Kids are more important than trees. But I do think it's a little bit backwards to say that a tree that's been there for 90 years is in the way of a crosswalk that isn't there yet. I think the crosswalk could be the thing that is moved instead of the tree. And I'm sure that the folks who are in charge of planning those things can figure out, how far it needs to be, and, regulations that I don't know. But since the tree can't move, but the crosswalk can, I would suggest doing it that way. As far as ADA compliance goes, obviously another thing that is super important. I measured this afternoon, and it's 4 foot 4 inches instead of the 5 feet, and so it's lacking 8 inches. And it's lacking those 8 inches for just like 2 feet. If you're trying to picture that, that's roughly the size of 2 Jersey Mike subs. And I think those of us who live in the 54-56, we would be happy to talk about whether the fence that we have there could come back 8 inches to make space rather than get rid of a 90-year-old tree to make space. So we would be happy to have that conversation to make sure ADA compliance happens. In summary, I don't think there is any danger to trucks and buses. I think even though it looks like it's leaning out, that's more of a hypothetical danger than a real danger. And there's my 3 minutes. So I'll stop there and say thank you for listening.
Thank you. All right, if you can also just say your name and address for the record.
My name is Jim McLean. I live at 58 Hemlock Street. I'm in support of my neighbor and the keeping of the tree if it is at all possible. I believe that Nathan and our neighbors in the downstairs in 56 are looking at this and willing to work with the town to possibly preserve that tree that has been there for a while. It will impact not only their house, but also the house that I live in. It's provided a great deal of shade. I believe we can mitigate some of the concerns that are with this. I do also support the fact of trying to maintain safe roads. My 2 daughters went to Stratton. We know everybody that walks up and down that hill. We talk to them all the time, all the kids that come through with their parents, especially on the first day of school. So we really would like to preserve the tree as well as maintaining a safe street and a safe walking path for all the children going to the school. Thank you very much.
Thank you. On Zoom.
I'm going to promote the first person, and then there's one additional person after that.
Okay.
Hello, my name is Dana Allsweet, and I live at 54 Hemlock Street. My neighbors Nathan and Jim described really well kind of our feelings about this tree as well. The only unique piece that I have to add is that there is a huge amount of shade that's offered by this tree in our surrounding properties, but also over the sidewalk and also near this potential crosswalk as well. And as some of these other trees that are going to be planted and added in, take their time to grow and offer that may be kind of keeping the shade that we have may be an additional benefit for those who are walking up the hill towards Stratton. Thank you all so much for your thoughtful consideration of this issue.
Thank you. Good evening. Can you just say your name and address for the record?
Hi, is it me? I'm not sure.
Yes, yes.
Okay, sorry, because it doesn't say that I'm now can speak. Hi, my name is Marina Popova. I'm a resident of Precinct 13. I'm also a town meeting member of Precinct 13. I'm also a member of the tree committee, but I'm speaking on behalf of myself. And I wanted to add a few more points to what the neighbors already said, which I 100% agree with. First, this is actually a very unique tree. It's a London plane tree. We do not have many trees like that in Arlington at all. And to add to that, this is a 30-inch DBH, the diameter tree, which means that the age is about 90 years old. We also do not have many old trees like that left in Arlington. I think we really should try to work as much as we can to protect this tree and find other solutions, especially if, neighbors are, offering other options potentially to make sure that we have both safe routes, which I really appreciate because my kids also went to Stratton, so I totally on board with having the great walkable paths to schools. So one other point I want to make, if we lose this tree, if you actually look at the street, if you look at that image that our great town engineer showed, I mean, you will see that on that side and actually on that whole stretch of the road of Hemlock, this tree is the only mature tree that actually gives shade. There is a very large area, both to the up and down from that tree where there is no shade trees at all, which will make walking there miserable in the heat and in the sun. So please do consider doing whatever is possible to try to protect this tree to actually make that route truly walkable. Walking in 90 degrees, it's really no fun at all. And I'm really appreciating that we are going to plant new trees, but again, it's going to take 50 years. Probably we are going to be gone, or our kids are going to be gone by that time. So please, let's preserve whatever we have, because this is our treasure that we need to try to protect. And also one last point is, since I am a town meeting member, I did have quite a few neighbors from Precinct 13 reaching out to me with their concerns about losing this tree. So I wanted to convey those concerns to you here in the meeting, and I hope that you will consider them. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all. Thank you.
All right, turning to the board for any questions, comments, or motions. Ms. Mahan.
Yes, and I want to thank everyone who appeared before us tonight in chambers as well as through Zoom. I do want to make a motion to approve the amended request just for the tree at 54 Hemlock Street, and I'll try to be, for me, as brief as possible. I do appreciate that the request originally was for 4 trees, and that Mr. LaQueve and Mr. Copperthorne, under the direction of the manager, went and looked at those 4 and determined a negative on 3. Arlington certainly is very sensitive and known as a tree community in so many ways that I'm sure, and I know you all are familiar with, but the reason why I am making this motion is that we are establishing safe routes to school. If this tree remained, and I appreciate the shade, but the mission is safe routes to school, and with this tree remaining in place, we no longer would be in compliance with the ADA, American with Disabilities Act. I like to say individuals with different abilities, whether temporary or permanent. And there are quite a few people, whether you have a physical ability temporarily or permanently, that need a certain width to traverse safely up a sidewalk, as well as there are quite a few people that push strollers and carriage and others, that those individuals, by not being compliant with the ADA requirements, would have to go out into the street because that part of the sidewalk couldn't accommodate them. And that's just not something that I'm in favor of. And I appreciate shade, and I certainly appreciate DBH and the maturity of trees, 15 versus 30 years. But we have to, in my opinion, I have to stay true to the mission of safe routes to school. And one of the tenets, one of the top 3 things that we just really don't have a choice, I believe. I guess we could go to design a project that isn't safe and doesn't comply with the American with Disabilities Act. But I don't think that's a wise thing to do, and I could see this board being subject to people coming in afterwards saying, you went through, you did all these things, you hired all these consultants, you did all these studies, you watched the sun rise and set, and there's a good portion of people, 15–20%, that because you left this tree here and there's not the 5-foot width, have to, push a stroller or push their wheelchair or crutches or whatever and walk out into the street. So that's why I'm voting to move approval on the one amended request for the tree 30 dBH located at 54 Hemlock Street.
Mr. Helmuth?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple of questions, and maybe you and the town manager can figure out the best person to answer them. First of all, I appreciate the residents coming to speak to us. That matters to me. And I think that the concerns and the appeals were absolutely brought to us in good faith. And I know Mrs. Mahan believes as well. I'd like to know, Mr. Chair, what the feasibility of a couple of the proposals, alternatives were by our first speaker regarding, is there any way to mitigate or to change the width by potentially moving the little red fence I see on Google Street View here? And then secondly, by relocating the crosswalk, and if those would be potentially feasible alternatives.
And I think Mr. Copperthorne, with the caveat that he'd have to know, I mean, we can't, I think Attorney Cunningham can tell us what, we'd have to know if it's within the taking area, right? Because it would have to be within, area that we have under our control.
Oh, right.
But do you want to jump in on that?
What I would say is that I don't know specifically for this property, Mr. Hurd, but you are correct that, right, we obviously went through almost a year-long process of right-of-way acquisition for this project to acquire the necessary takings and payments for just compensation for the use of private property for this project. So we would have to check into that, and if not, we would have to start that process over, at least for this specific parcel. Of course, that is a very long process where we have to go through and get appraisals, review appraisals, come back before this board, issue just compensation, make a recording at the Registry of Deeds, right? So eminent domain takings certainly can be done. It's just a lengthy process. And I would defer to Mr. Copperthorne for whether the field analysis yielded any potential alternative locations for the crossing.
Yeah, so I know one of the sticking points during the design process was that there really was an insistence that there be a crossing at Lansdowne Road. And it was not feasible to do it on the uphill side because of this tree. And the intended compromise at the time was to try to go on the downstream side. And I'm not exactly sure why the designer didn't call us out prior to the previous hearing, given the items that they looked at so carefully beforehand. But I do know that being part of Lansdowne Road, or the crossing there, was kind of a non-negotiable during the design phase.
And just to clarify that, so is that it has to be located where it is? Is that what I'm hearing? When you say non-negotiable, yeah.
Yeah, sure. My understanding was just for this, we were trying to capture pedestrians coming from all the side streets, and having a crosswalk on one side of Lansdowne Road was one of the requests. So maybe non-negotiable was the wrong phrase, but to accommodate that and to have a crossing over to the other side where the tree is, which is going to be the actual route that makes it all the way up to Stratton. The sidewalk on the Lansdowne Road side is not continuous. So in order for there to be a continuous path, the users have to get over to the side where the tree is.
Does that answer your question, Mr. Helmuth?
Follow up. So, and thank you for the answers. I want to understand with the ADA issue, because it sounds like that's not easily solvable due to the process that the town manager explained, so I get that. And I want to be very clear before I ask this question, I'm not suggesting that we do this, because I think that the ADA access is really, really important, but just to understand sort of the stakes of the discussion. Are we even able to proceed with the project under the terms of the agreements that we have under the Safe Routes program if there is not ADA compliance? You know, is it even an option to disregard that factor?
Thank you, Mr. Helmuth. Certainly, Mr. Copperthorne is more expert than I am in these matters, but it's my understanding that we would still have enough clearance to proceed. Correct, Mr. Copperthorne? We're allowed to have sort of a narrowing or a pinch point?
You're allowed to have a pinch point under the current standards down to the 4 feet. So, you know, as the resident, Mr. Carter noted, it's just over 4 feet right now, clearance-wise. There's a slight hump that would be created over a portion of the roots. Generally speaking, those tolerances are allowed to move forward in regards with an understanding that you're following a transition plan, an ADA transition plan, that as you're able to update them and fix them and bring them to standards, you do so. So on frequently on our projects, as I noted, we do have to try to make compromises to make the ADA compliance work with the Massachusetts tree laws. And I'm not a town council, but the way we have acted is trying to adhere to those regulations as strictly as possible, and continuing to work towards full compliance.
Thank you. This would be a lot easier for me if this were Norway maple. The London plane tree is a great urban street tree. You know, it's got potentially a long life. It's actually does really well, you know, under urban conditions. You know, it's in a tough spot for this. So I'm just going to sit back and see if my colleagues have other thoughts about this. But I do feel some conflict on this one.
I just had a quick question through the chair. On the drawing, it looks as if the crosswalks that are along Hemlock Street are marked with arrows leading up to them. Is that indicating a certain type of crosswalk there, or is that standard markings?
Bill, were you able to hear that question? It's about arrows leading to a crosswalk. I think this is a raised crossing, correct?
Yeah, there will be raised crossings there and a Janet Road.
And with raised crossings, does that mitigate the risk of the lack of visibility to the crosswalk when you're coming down Hemlock and the tree is on the right? Would you expect a slower speed, a different sort of level of visibility because of that?
There will be advanced signage, and the intent of that as a traffic calming measure is to reduce speeds.
Okay.
If someone doesn't, they'll learn the second time to reduce their speed.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple further follow-up questions. Does this issue need to be resolved in order for the project to proceed, like one way or the other? I mean, it seems like there may be an issue here that maybe there's a pinch point that we weren't aware of at the initial presentation of 4 feet, but just tell me, if we do nothing tonight, and I'm not suggesting that we do nothing yet, but what happens to the project?
Thank you, Mr. DeCoursey. It's my understanding that the project would still proceed as planned. The concern about reduced visibility would remain, but that they're hearing from Mr. Copperthorne is no better alternative location for the crosswalk, but we would still proceed with the project as planned.
Okay, all right. And in terms, tell me again, and we had this presentation before, but what's the time frame for the completion of the project?
The project is beginning in earnest this week, actually, and it will be completed, as I understand, by early fall, but I know Mr. Copperthorne attended the most recent site meeting, so if that has changed, please feel free to correct me.
No, the intent of the contractors have all the sidewalk work completed, at least by this fall. There'll be some additional paving and pavement marking work that will likely continue into the next construction season.
Okay, all right. And then on the 3 points that are made in the memo, If the ADA issue is no longer there because you can either have a pinch point or maybe some sort of an agreement for an easement with the owners of the property, would you still be forced? Is ADA the primary issue or is it the crosswalk?
My personal opinion was that the bigger issues were the site visibility of the crosswalk and the tree leaning into the street.
Okay, all right. And I'm sorry to take extra time, but I mean, I'm really conflicted here because I hear the neighbors and I appreciate them coming in. And as I look at where the homes are, 58 may even be affected more because of the sun in the morning coming in from the east, because it's like a northeast, just the way the sun rises in the east, and it looks like it would hit 58 directly in the absence of the tree. I feel conflicted here. I feel like maybe there should be a little bit more dialogue. You did say there's going to be some signage to point out the crosswalk, the raised crosswalk, so that helps with the visibility and seeing it. Does this affect anything, Mr. Feeney, in terms of if we were to sit back, maybe suggest there be a little bit more dialogue and revisit this issue, knowing that the crosswalk can't change, that's where it's going to be, but seeing if the ADA issue can be handled and maybe taking a look at the visibility as the project goes along to revisit it, because we often have tree hearings where the homeowner wants the tree removed. Here we have a neighborhood that doesn't want it removed, but we have to be concerned about safe routes to school, as Mrs. Mahan said, and that's got to be the primary concern. But I just feel like sitting here tonight, I'm not quite comfortable with making that vote to take it down. I might be more comfortable if there's more dialogue and we come back to the neighbors and say, sorry, we looked at everything, but I don't feel like we're quite at that point yet. And I don't know if we want to have the vote tonight and do this for discussion purposes or table it. So I'm not going to, I'd like to, well, I'll tell you what, I will second Mrs. Mahan's vote for discussion, and then maybe we have a vote whether we table it or do something else.
So is there a question on the table that says, if we table it to another meeting, does it hold up the project?
So,
I can answer that if you want. Okay. If, Mr. Chair, if you want me to answer that, it would not hold up the project. I think Mr. Copperthorne's memo is correct. The standard is 5 feet for ADA. That's what we'd like to have. But under the standard, under the law, it's permitted that you can narrow it to 36 inches for some periods, subject to those intervals that we're talking about, and also slope requirements. So it would depend on the topography of the area, which I'm not sure of at this point. But to answer Mr. DeCourcy's question from earlier, and to confirm what I believe is correct, Mr. Feeney said, it would not hold up the project if this tree remained.
Okay. And if we similarly table this, didn't vote, and asked for more discussion, does it hold up? Not just if we deny the request, if we ask for more discussion, does it cause issues with the planning?
sure, I appreciate the question. Obviously, it's one that I don't want to answer definitively because it is not a contract the town holds, right? Like we are not in charge of the vendor, and nor are we overseeing the project. It's all being done through MassDOT, so I can't speak for them. My guess would be such that if we were going to defer this decision, that we likely would only be able to defer it until our next meeting, at which point we need to give the contractor ample time to know how to proceed. And, you know, I don't want the town being sort of on the hook for what would be any delay claims from the contractor to MassDOT because they were not able to proceed in earnest because, again, you know, we only receive our temporary easements for a certain period of time to be able to gain access to all of these properties. So that's why, you know, they're trying to identify these issues at the start of the project, but just knowing, you know, 2 weeks doesn't seem like it would be too long to wait. I know myself, and looking and sort of just tracking this particular tree over time with Google Street View images, I have a concern that I would ask the tree warden for, just like sort of what degree lean is this tree at? It looks like it has been deepening over time, and I know that any tree like an urban street tree or in our canopy that has a lean of 30 degrees or more is considered a structural risk, and we generally have to remove those types of trees proactively, because once we see it and know about it, and as we see, we lost 4 trees in last week's storm. A lot of times it is the uprooting of leaning mature trees as they get longer and heavier, that lever arm changes, and as they get more weight in the crown and canopy, it tends to lean further and further over the public right-of-way until it potentially could come down. So I know myself, I'd be looking for the calculation just to see how this tree may have progressed over time and what the lean angle is at now, and if it actually, aside from presenting a sightline issue for the downstream crosswalk or a potential vehicular strike issue, as to whether or not this tree may pose a risk at some point in the near future for coming all the way down across the right-of-way. So again, long way of saying I think we might be able to defer until the June meeting, June 22nd meeting, but deferring any longer than that, I suspect, giving knowledge and experience on other construction projects, would lead to some sort of delay claim, because they would have to sort of pass this area and then revisit it, but I think we could make it work within the June 22nd meeting.
So we have a motion that's been seconded to approve. It does sound like some people are, Ms. Mahan.
I'm willing to postpone it if you want, to no later than June 22nd. And I know I don't need to remind my colleagues, but Mr. Solomon is new to the board, that all of us, and especially including the town manager and Mr. DeCoursey and myself, did a lot of work on this project, and a lot of work with Mass DOT, and I'm blanking on the woman representative name. It might have started with a J or something, and who initially we had problems with the process, the appraisals, the length of the project, the way the funding was going. It was detrimental from an economic standpoint all the way through to a construction standpoint. And our initial request that we asked Mass DOT, and I remember that night when the individual, when she was here from Mass DOT, said, well, that's just impossible, but I'll be happy to bring it back. And then further conversations, I know the town manager, Mr. DeCoursey, had a conference call, and correct me if I'm wrong on any of my memory, and I believe, I know I wasn't on that, but I believe other people were. And I remember when she came back and said, well, we spoke to Mass DOT, we're going to do something, we're going to do what you've asked for, we're going to expedite this, we're also going to evaluate or allow you to reevaluate the appraisal process, do it on an expedited matter. And this is the first that's ever been done, but because the town is ready to go and committed to this project, committed to safe routes to schools, and she specifically pointed out the part of the reason that the dilemma that we were in on both sides, the town and Mass DOT, and correct me if I'm wrong, was the grant, the original grant submission, the federal highway rules, and something else that this project had to abide by. So to keep delaying this, I'm in fear of that, we're kind of going back on what we kind of set the path, of course, for this to happen. If you want to do it for another 2 weeks, I'm happy to make a motion, because I guess I'm hearing people just don't want to do this tonight. But I'm going to tell you, any project that moves forward, besides the issues with, I think of the playground in Melrose and the tree that fell there and the child that was killed, in hindsight's 2020, and the lean of this tree. We can't relocate the crosswalk. The crosswalk has to be safe. I know everybody's saying, oh, well, we can put signs up and everyone can giggle and say, oh, they'll learn the first time they go over it, they'll slow down. What if the first time they go over it, we've created an unsafe crossing, and something detrimental happens? And I know you can say I'm Chicken Little and the sky's falling in, but my day job kind of, it taints me for that view, as well as, and I would like to ask through you, Mr. Chairman, or to you, or to town council, that regarding the ADA requirements, that we can skip it and not abide by it and delay it, which I am not in favor of. But I believe if we do that, we also are committed to that it is with the understanding that in the future, we will cure that issue. Is that correct? From a legal standpoint? Or can we just say we're not going to comply with ADA and that's it? We don't have to do anything in the future?
Attorney Cunningham?
Mr. Chair, I think there's an open question, too, in response to Ms. Mahan's question about this particular project and whether the contractor is going to be held to federal standards regarding the ADA, which is the 5-foot reference that Mr. Copperthorne's memo talks about. There is some allowance for that, down to 36 inches, which would be an appropriate minimum in some circumstances. I'm just not sure of the details of this particular project and whether they are going to be held to that federal standard of 5 feet continuously throughout every sidewalk, or are they going to be allowed to create those pinch points that ADA in most instances allows? So that would be something I'd want to talk to the construction company that's been retained by Mass DOT.
So my motion would be to postpone to June 22nd, time certain, the issues that my colleagues all have raised, the issue raised by the town manager regarding the lean of the tree and projection of that, as well as my issue regarding if we choose to ignore, and I know I'm being harsh with the words, but I honestly feel strongly about America with Disabilities Act, whether temporary or permanent, that if we choose to ignore it, that under the federal highway standard guidelines, if we can choose to ignore it and never remedy it, but my understanding is that we can't do that. I remember talking to Mr. Alessi about this when he was here, our transportation planning, that those federal rules are very stringent, and I believe the understanding is we can initially ignore it, but we have to eventually cure it, and we can't just say, oh, we're going to do it. We have to do it, which would be removing this tree. So motion to postpone to June 22nd. I'll change my motion.
I'll second Mrs. Mahan's motion, and I think where we are, I'd like a little bit more information, and we did, as Mrs. Mahan said, we went through a long process with the state, we got the costs down, we got, one of the things ironically is the period of time we would have wanted it shorter, it is longer, these easements last for a while, so this project could be done even beyond the fall. I'm not saying that it should be, but that was one of the issues where they moved it a little bit, not as much as we would have liked them to have done. But I think based on what we've heard, I feel like we owe it to the neighbors here to get some more information. We may end up voting that the tree needs to come down. I think there should be some discussions here. I think, the structural integrity of the tree is a question. And to Mrs. Mahan's point, if it's something that needs to be remedied down the road as opposed to something that is in compliance that we can deal with, maybe we get the answer to that too, and maybe there's a fix with the neighbors. So no guarantees what's going to happen, but I would support a couple weeks.
Okay, we have a motion to post. Yep.
Thank you very briefly, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I support that as well, and I think I would add personally that in addition to that, those points of research, it would be helpful to have I would appreciate having some insight into what the dimensions of the safety issue are with the crosswalk visibility, and trying to get some expert guidance on that. All of which is to say, this is not a lack of confidence in our town staff at all. I think that I could see a situation where we come back and regretfully have to vote to remove this tree, but I'm mindful that the residents asked us to not rush into this. And I think that that's a more than reasonable request, why we take a look at this and see what we can do.
Very briefly, if it's possible to take a look on the Lansdowne Road side, it looks like there's additional green space that's being created by teeing off the intersection. If we were to come back and have to vote to cut down the tree, I'd be interested if that could be an opportunity for a new tree to, I get not immediately, but over time, try to provide similar to shade to what folks have today.
Okay. We have a motion postponed by Mrs. Mahan, seconded by Mr. DeCoursey. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed? Unanimous vote. All right. That takes us to item number 15, amendments to traffic rules and order.
Thank you, Mr. Hurd. For the board's consideration this evening are two amendments to the town's traffic rules and orders as outlined in the memorandum that I provided. They are two fairly simple changes, which I will run through fairly quickly. The first relates to Dudley Street. The board may recall, under correspondence received at its May 18th meeting, They received a letter from the owner of 47 Dudley Street requesting that the parking signs located in front of their property between 43 and 49 Dudley Street be removed. That was referred to myself as the town manager. We put that before our internal safety group, and we're grateful for the Select Board Office for having conducted research which identified the original cause of the placement of those no parking signs to be due to activities related to the prior business that was housed at that property, being oil delivery trucks. So for maneuvering and visibility, the then board had approved no parking. That has existed in effect until now. The same use, the use of the property has changed. The same need and desire no longer exists, and we support and are recommending that the signs be removed and have proposed commensurate changes to the board's traffic rules and orders, which are shown in context in a red line version prepared by Ms. Marr. The second request is to amend the distances listed in the traffic rules and orders for no parking here to corner signage on Milton Street. And this is also a request that office staff has received recently from neighbors in the area to have the sign replaced. It was removed during a recent sidewalk construction project last year. The request of certain abutters, and due to new conditions, some of the driveway apron widths had changed, so the cornerstones had moved out wider. That precluded the reinstallation of the existing, of what had been the pre-existing pole in the same location. So in order to locate that pole and sign in a new location and have it be enforceable, we wanted to first update the board's traffic rules and orders commensurate with some field measurements that were taken by the Police Department and Engineering Division to note where those signs could now be located. It is worth noting that the effective parking areas aren't really changing given the actual built environment. This is just a matter of updating the traffic rules and orders to align with what will be the proposed and recommended sign placements. So thank you for consideration.
All right, turn to the board for any questions, comments, or motions.
Move approval for both items of the town manager's request.
Motion to approve by Mr. Helmuth, seconded by
Second.
Mr. Solomon. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed? Unanimous vote. Item number 16, authorization of body-worn camera contract exceeding 3 years. Mr. Feeney?
Thank you, Mr. Hurd. So requesting from the board this evening authorization per General Law, Chapter 30B, Section 12B, that states, unless authorized by a majority vote of this board, I, as town manager, am not able to enter into contracts that exceed 3 years in length. Here, for this particular investment that we're making, it will be more, it will be a greater cost benefit to doing so for a 5-year period, and that takes into account the renewal cycle for the hardware, which is incorporated into this agreement. It will also ensure that we have the necessary support and services for a longer period of time, and will provide for a more stable program. Otherwise, after the 3-year period, which would have a higher annual cost, we may find ourselves going back out to bid sooner and potentially ending up with a different vendor. And obviously, anytime you have those times of turnover can be challenging for the program and maintaining continuity. So the request before the board this evening is to get authorized to enter into a 5-year contract, which will ensure that the budget allocated to the police department for this particular program a few years ago will remain sufficient for the next 5 years without needing to increase it year over year. So thank you for your consideration.
Turn to the board for any motions. Questions, comments? Mrs. Mahan?
I'd like to move approval to authorize the town through the town manager to enter into a 5-year contract with Axon Enterprise, Inc. And I do have one comment after that. Had a 16-minute conversation with the town manager this morning, and because I care for you all deeply, I won't go into all of that. And that's why I had that 16-minute conversation this morning, but if I could just ask the town manager, just on one point that he and I discussed, and I'm sure my colleagues have also, but we can't all talk to him at the same time, regarding moving forward with the body-worn camera program, any policies, protocols, or procedures that the town is contemplating, has contemplated, and/or will be implemented. If you could just, my question was, how is that happening? How is that happening? Will there be a document? When can I see a document? So whatever short answer you want to, or whatever answer you want to give to that.
Sure. Thank you, Ms. Mahan. It's a good question. We do have a rather comprehensive body-worn camera policy already drafted. I believe it's 14 pages long. It has been agreed to by both of the unions within the police department. It is undergoing a final review and formatting to fit our existing policies format, and once that is done, it will be posted to the town's website. It outlines conditions for their use, how to access, really anything you can think of. It is a really comprehensive policy that was drafted with review by the Middlesex District Attorney's Office and formulated based on sort of the best practices and policies already adopted by a number of communities in the Commonwealth who have previously deployed body-worn cameras in their police departments.
Thank you. And I asked that question because we all have been asked individually at town meeting, outside of town meeting, by residents, citizens, town meeting members, as well as any conversations we may or may not have with members of the Arlington Police Department. So thank you.
All right.
Second.
So we have a motion approved by Mrs. Mahan, seconded by Mr. DeCoursey. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, we have item number 17, interdepartmental appropriation transfers. Ms. Wayman, our Deputy Town Manager and Director of Finance.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Julie Wayman, Deputy Town Manager of Finance. I am here tonight for approval of our interdepartmental transfers. This is part of the Finance Department year-end close. First, I just want to mention that this is not a request for additional funds. These are moves between departments, but within our fiscal 26 appropriation. So we don't typically transfer money between departments as part of our year-end close. So really historically, and as we plan to do in the future, if a department does have a deficit at the end of the fiscal year, we go to the Finance Committee and request a reserve fund transfer. So this year was different. We wanted to ensure that we were going to have a sufficient balance in the reserve fund to cover the retro payments for our public safety personnel. That process we won't finish until a couple weeks into the next fiscal year. Also, we are nearing the end of the fiscal year, but we do have a few weeks left, and we want to make sure that we are maintaining something of a balance in the reserve fund. We don't want there to be any unforeseen final expenditures in the coming weeks. And notably, as a result of the hiring freeze that was put in place prior to the override vote and with Mr. Rademacher's careful maintenance of the Public Works Department, we just also want to note that Public Works won't require a transfer for the snow and ice overages that they experienced this year. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hurd. As Deputy Town Manager Wayman noted, this is not a practice we customarily engage in, but bringing it before this board is in compliance with a statute that requires concurrence between both the Select Board and the Finance Committee to proceed with these transfers. So this is a matter that would also be docketed and put before the Finance Committee. I believe we will be presenting to them next week for these, what we call interdepartmental transfers, and they also have oversight over what we would call intra-departmental transfers, meaning between salaries and expenses within a departmental budget, as well as the reserve fund transfers, which is the fund that annually backstops any existing operating department budget that may have overage. For example, the fire department, if they have a number of retirement buyouts that were unbudgeted for but significant, it may outpace their bottom line appropriation, and we would typically just go to the Finance Committee for that. But this particular process requires concurring vote of the Select Board. That's why it's before you this evening.
Thank you. Thank you, Board. Mr. Corsi?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll move approval of the requested transfers. I want to thank Ms. Wayman and Mr. Feeney for presenting it this way, because it is, you both said in years past, what you'd see is a reserve fund transfer, and then if departments didn't spend their money, that would go to, it'd be returned to the general fund and go to free cash. And this is something, after speaking to Mr. Feeney today, I didn't keep him 16 minutes, but I kept him a little while. We talked about why it was done this year, and this was a statute that was passed like in 2016, the Municipal Modernization Act, because it used to be you had to go to town meeting to do transfers, and I think former town managers just followed that old process, but I think this is more accurate in terms of what the individual departmental expenses are. It only can be done in May and June or the first 15 days of July, but I certainly approve of this and hope we see it in the future if necessary, because I just think it gives a more accurate reading.
Thank you. Yep, Ms. Mahan.
I'll second that, and not that the deputy town manager has to say, but two of my new businesses, I'll be citing you positively, not negatively. So you don't have to stay, but just so you know. Thank you.
Motion approved by Mr. DeCoursey, seconded by Mrs. Mahan. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous vote.
Thank you.
Thank you. Correspondence received, item 18, request for a historic marker for Dr. George F. Grant by Pearl Morrison and David Ludwig. And item 19, review of recent roadway speed limit reductions by Carl Wagner.
Move receipt.
We have a motion to receive.
And I think for item 19, a referral to the town, well, actually for item 18, referral to the Public Memorials Committee, and for item 19, a referral to the town manager.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that, and part of that 16-minute conversation was around agenda item 19 also. I work in billable hours, so it really was 16 minutes. And I would just note that the conversation I had with the town manager is we have just recently implemented these safe roadway speed limits when they became available to us, and we really haven't even had the time to evaluate. We don't have the data, we haven't had the time to gather the data to evaluate anything right now. So I would leave it to the town manager, but I think this is, in my personal opinion, extremely, extremely premature, and I'll just leave it at that. Second Mr. Helmut's motion.
Yeah, I'd just like to clarify my motion that the referral to the town manager is for exercise his best judgment as to the next steps.
We have a motion received by Mr. Helmut, seconded by Mrs. Mahan. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Unanimous vote. New business? Ms.
No
Meyer?
business, thank you.
Attorney Cunningham?
No new business. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Feeney?
No new business. Thank you.
Mr. DeCoursey?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A couple of things. Part of my new business I addressed when Ms. Waden was here with Miles Robinson, so I won't repeat myself. But one thing I want to ask the town manager, maybe for our next meeting or in July, if maybe we could have an update on the project at the corner of Mass Ave and Lake Street. I know the board members have been informed in terms of some delays there, but we're receiving an awful lot of inquiries that has to do with issues the developer, the owner had, but I think it's important for the community to know what's going on and the steps the town has taken to try to improve the access around that, just because of the number of questions. And it also leads, this hasn't been an empty hole for a long time, but it's frustrating when you see a project start and then just stop. But maybe that leads to a further discussion too. There's certain properties around town. There's one in Broadway next to Arlington Eats that comes to mind that are just sitting there. Nothing has been done with them, and it's not necessarily our function. Maybe it's a discussion with the redevelopment board because they have Chapter 121B authority, but in the meantime, if Mr. Feeney maybe could come back to us next meeting with an update on that. Second thing, this is a very, very loose Arlington connection, but as I was talking about Miles earlier, and I know those of us who are basketball fans were upset to see the New York Knicks in the finals and about to win a championship. For those Celtics fans, 42 years ago tonight was perhaps the greatest game in Celtic history. Game 5 of the 1984 championship. They call it the Heat game. It was 97 degrees. The Celtics beat the Lakers 121-103 and then went on to win in Game 7. I was fortunate enough to be there. The only Arlington connection is that there was probably a lot of Arlington people there that night.
Sweating out with you.
Just to get us off of our present predicament in the NBA. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Mahan.
Thank you. My updates are, I had a conversation with my co-chair of the override, Jeff Thielman, on one of the commitments, one of the requests we heard over and over again from yes, no, and undecided voters, and something that we committed to, which is to explore having perhaps a yearly forum around the budget, sort of a budget 101. Mrs. DeFrancisco, Ms. Diggins are doing their Google Pop Doc, whatever, to find a date that, as Dr. Homan says, we can all land the plane and be there. So, so having said that, and to that vein, so that will happen in probably in June, to talk about possibly doing something in the fall, if that's doable, and what that would look like around moving forward, because, you know, the last override I was involved with was stretched out to 5 years. I'd like to think that we're going to do that again, but I don't see that happening between that, the debt exclusion for the Ottoson Middle School, when that comes online, as well as our lease with the rink at Burns Arena up in 2030. And we're all watching what happens in Medford if DCR allows a land swap. That's something else we can talk about, Great Meadows. But to that end, I've been doing some work in terms of, a lot of people also had said to me they really weren't aware of, especially their vulnerable neighbors, seniors, veterans, disabled, surviving spouses, of what was available, as well as people who said, I would willingly pay more, that it would help out my Arlington neighbor. And one of the things that was pointed out was that some people, and I said, as far as I understand, and I checked with the town manager, and Christine Shaw, who I'm blanking on what her official director of senior COA, and our deputy town manager regarding our programs for the tax relief for those aforementioned groups, that they do exist, and indicated there was the, when I said to people, you know, it is available on your tax bill, and we did just revise that under iCloud or whatever that Ms. Wayman sent me, people were confused because they thought that particular checkbox was for giving it to the state for anyone who needed help with their tax bill, who were disabled, elderly, veteran, surviving spouse. And I want to thank the town manager, first of all, for allowing the conversation to go forward, but our deputy town manager, Ms. Wayman, and our town treasurer, Ms. Gallagher, for taking that into account and clarifying it more, that it says Town of Arlington on the 2 checkboxes, so that you know, if you choose to do that, your tax dollars go directly. And I also think it gets out the information in terms of people who are looking for something like that, that don't know the relief is out there. To that end, if Mr. Jameson was still here, I certainly would say back at you, Mr. Jameson, in terms of things that need to be done on the to-do list. As we all, and I referenced earlier in the meeting, and this also will be part of what we discuss for this forum in the fall, but in terms of publicizing information for tax relief programs, I just want to kind of put a tickler. It's not allowing me to open it, but we did have the conversation when we were setting the senior means tax circuit breaker at 75%. And one of the things was that the Board of Assessors, when they highlighted there were only 30, I'm going to say, they didn't say only, they highlighted there were 34 applicants with 29 approved, and this board commented, gee, that seems awfully low, and they admitted themselves that it is low, and there should be more, and there needs to be more outreach done on that, as well as it may have been Mr. DeCoursey that gave us some guidance on the 150%, the 75%, the 50 moving forward, and I believe you made the motion saying, let's keep it where it's at right now, because we need to get more data to see how it trends, but people need to start tracking that, because when we get this vote again in the fall, we do want to see if we change that, which would allow possibly more people to do that. So want to thank the Deputy Town Manager for her work on the first thing with the Town Treasurer, but also kind of put on your radar that request, and the meeting was in November of last year. It was our first meeting in November. We had a discussion and vote where we discussed that, as well as I would ask the town manager, when the Board of Assessors, we can call Mary Winstanley O'Connor, whomever, but if you could follow up with the Board of Assessors in terms of, I don't want to step on their toes, it's their territory. They admitted there needed to be more outreach on that, and they were committed to that, but I'd like to get an update on that, at least by the fall forum, and if there's anything this select board should be doing in terms of getting that information known, but it seems that piece lies probably just with the Board of Assessors, but also if you could look at the November minutes so that when we do have that discussion, and I know it seems like it's far away, but it comes really quickly, again, we normally have it in October, but we moved it up for different reasons, so if we can make sure we're ready to go on that. And then I did get an email from a resident of a certain age who goes to the community center regarding the entrance to the community center, especially when you're going to the Council on Aging Senior Center, when you're going up those stairs off of Academy Street. And I'm going to forward that to the town manager, that there's been signs out there. It's really been in disrepair, and for some reason you need to use that, I think, for the door inside that's automatic or something, but I guess that's been up there according to this email, which I'll forward to the town manager, and if, for a year or so, and now the signs have fallen down. So the person was saying, is this going to get fixed? And that's it, thank you.
Mr. Hellman?
I'd like to congratulate the Rainbow Commission on a very successful kickoff to Pride Month on last Sunday. It was technically the day before June, but I think of it as Pride Eve. And they decided to try something new this year, which was to turn Town Hall into a queer market. And there were almost 50 tables and booths for people selling merchandise or distributing information. I was pleased to see that my colleagues, Mrs. Mahan, and Mr. Solomon were there, and I believe one of Mr. Solomon's young family members were here. I have evidence to believe that a cookie time bribe might have been part of the story, because they were one of the wonderful businesses that were there. But there were hundreds of people there, and also had appearances by our town manager, Senator Friedman, Representative Garbley, Representative Rogers, and we all participated in a rousing rendition of the Select Board Pride Month proclamation, round robin style. And it was a great time. I know that there's many other activities with crosswalk painting and other things going on this month, but I think that it was a real success, and I want to express to the town manager my appreciation for the often invisible town staff support for the planning and for the event itself. It went off very well, as always. Thank you.
Solomon?
No new business.
I have no new business. Take a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Mrs. Mahan, seconded by Mr. DeCoursey. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Unanimous vote.